It's time now for Flashback, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. We begin on Monday when the Senate approved and confirmed the appointment of 45 out of 48 ministerial nominees. Former Governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, Stella Okutete from Delta State, and Abubakar Sani Danladi from Taraba State weren't confirmed.
The constitutional provisions of Section 88B of the 1999 Constitution as amended, the Senate's Minority Whip calls for the suspension of the confirmation hearing of Mr. Festus Keyamo, a nominee on President Tinubu's ministerial list. Senator Nwokocha insisted that the screening of the nominee be stepped down until he explains his refusal to honor several invitations of the National Assembly over a 52 billion naira empowerment scheme.
I move a motion that we suspend forthwith this nomination and wait until when this is clear so that he can freely work in our environment and tell Nigerians, I have perfectly done well because this record has been put straight. Pending when he decides.
Senator Nwokocha's motion was seconded by Senator Einaya Abaribe, who also pointed out Mr. Keyamo's disregard for the National Assembly. The session soon turned rowdy after the motion was put to a voice vote, and it sharply divided the lawmakers, forcing the President of the Senate to rise from his seat to restore calm in the hallowed chamber. After an executive session that lasted for over 3 hours, the man in the eye of the storm, Festus Keyamo, who is now faced with the consequence of his past actions, tendered an apology to the lawmakers.
And confirm every single one with a BVN number. They are all there for complete transparency. Till today, we did not see one kobo of that. I needed to make that clarification. And like I said, I'm sorry for that misunderstanding.
The nomination of Honorable
45 out of 48 ministerial nominees of President Bola Tinubu have now crossed the last hurdle with the confirmation of the Senate approving their appointment as ministers of the Federal Republic. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, began the confirmation of their nomination after an executive session to deliberate on some matters arising.
And on Tuesday, the Nigerian Senate promised to work closely with organized labor to put together a plan to help implement palliative measures that will cushion the impact of subsidy removal. And President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, disclosed this when the Senate leadership met with labor union leaders at the National Assembly.
The Senate's leadership meets with organized labor to resolve issues that have trailed the fuel subsidy removal. This was after an initial agreement reached when labor unions brought their protest to the doorstep of the National Assembly, demanding quick intervention from the federal government to cushion the impact of fuel subsidy removal. This follow-up meeting is to further drive home their demands and proffer possible solutions to the economic crisis at hand. They say the harsh impact already felt by Nigerians across the country could be ameliorated if the federal government successfully implements palliative measures that are far-reaching and sustainable.
Even after that protest up to now, the meeting has not been convened. Although Mr. President promised that he is going to restructure a mechanism for which we are engaging with government so that things could, be treated fast. So we suggest that, or we still plead, that you put your heads together with Mr. President so that we can have a committee that is meeting. Well, this is like an emergency. People are still tracking, people are suffering, and we are seen as doing a meeting forever. That is not good, that we don't have mandate.
At times, some things are very necessary. We understand, distinguished senators, some things are necessary for us to do. But the timing of some of the decisions we also make infuriate the people. And when the people put pressure on the leadership, it will be difficult for us to fold our arms and not to act.
The President of the Senate commends the union leaders for their understanding and willingness to work with the government to set the country on the path to progress. Senator Akpabio appeals to them and asks for patience as they continue to engage, dialogue, and find better ways to support the federal government in easing the sufferings of Nigerians across the country.
The Senate will partner with you to put these ideas together. The Senate will be very glad to approach the executive arm of government in partnership with you to see how we can work together to reduce the sufferings of Nigerians.
And to Wednesday, where the suspended CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele asked the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos to stop the federal government from further prosecuting him on the charges of illegal possession of firearms. The suspended CBN Governor also sought an order to prohibit the federal government from continuing to enjoy any form of indulgence from the courts, except it complies with the bail ruling through his lawyers. While the suspended CBN governor filed an application to his effect before a vacation judge, Justice Nicholas Owibo, who had admitted him to bail after his arraignment. And still in the week under review, President Bola Tinubu on Thursday affirmed ECOWAS' commitment in supporting the people of Niger's journey towards peace and democratic stability. The Nigerian president emphasized that the outcome of the summit, which has authorized the standby deployment of ECOWAS troops to restore order in the Republic of Niger, attests to the power of collaboration among ECOWAS member states.
ECOWAS is ready to work the hard way if it is the only way to restore constitutional order in Niger Republic. It seems the sanctions slapped on the landlocked West African country has not yielded much and does not seem to bother the military coup leaders in Niger. These punishments imposed on the regional bloc are still in effect, but it seems this time the option of the use of force is real, as ECOWAS orders the activation of the standby defense force with the possibility of deployment to restore constitutional order in the landlocked country.
Call on the African Union to endorse all the decisions taken by the ECOWAS authority on the situation in Niger. Further call on all partner countries and institutions, including the United Nations, to support ECOWAS in its effort to ensure a quick restoration of constitutional order in conformity with its normative instruments. Direct the President of the Commission to monitor the implementation of the sanctions. Order the deployment of the ECOWAS standby force to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger.
We proceeded to impose...
President Bola Tinubu, as chair of the authority of ECOWAS heads of state and government, is also committed to still keeping all options on the table.
We still look to engage the party involved in honest discussion to convince them to relinquish power as suggested and reinstate President Bazoum.
The ECOWAS heads of state and government were emphatic in stating that the resolutions reached and sanctions imposed on the Niger Republic are a collective decision of the regional body and not influenced by a single member state. They all agree that coup d'etats will henceforth be resisted in the region.
The decision that we have made today, and I hope it will be implemented immediately, we have sent delegation to talk to the people of Niger, but they're hosting, they're keeping President Bazoum as a hostage. I personally consider this as a terrorist act.
The coming days will be decisive as ECOWAS activates a standby force. It also remains to be seen how the military coup leaders in Niger Republic will respond to this next line of action by the regional bloc.
And on Friday, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors suspended its nationwide strike. The suspension came days after the doctors suspended their planned nationwide protest to press home their demands. Among the demands of the doctors include the payment of a medical residency training fund, immediate release of the secular on-for-one replacement and payment of skipping arrears. And finally, in Kaduna State, a section of the Zazzau Emirate Central Mosque collapsed in Zaria, which resulted to the death of many worshippers.
A tragic incident unfolded on Friday when a section of the Zazzau Emirate Central Mosque collapsed, resulting in fatalities among worshippers. According to sources, at least 6 individuals are feared dead, while numerous others sustained injuries. Authorities are actively working to account for all individuals who were present during the collapse. This heartbreaking event, which occurred around 4 p.m., has deeply affected the historic city of Zaria and the Zazzau Emirate. The Kofar Father Mosque is situated within the premises of the Palace of the Emir of Zazzau in the Zaria local government area of Kaduna State. This mosque holds significant historic importance and has served as a revered place of worship for generations. Local officials swiftly responded to distress calls in an attempt to rescue survivors and recover the bodies of those who died. It is likely that authorities will initiate an investigation to determine the cause of this catastrophic collapse. The deceased worshippers were to be laid to rest by 8:30 p.m. on Friday, following the Emir's directives in accordance with Islamic rites.